Hey everyone, welcome back to another rendition of PRL Plays podcast. This week, as you know, we will be doing 4 episodes, one for each division. This episode is, of course, the Mind Division episode, as you probably already know based on the title of this video. So, Alex, do you have any thoughts before we jump into all the announcements and all that kind of stuff that we have for today?
Yeah, I'm just super excited to be jumping into Mind Division. I thought it was a crazy week, and there's so many possibilities we need to talk about.
Oh no, absolutely.
And it's going to be super fun to get into the heads of these teams and kind of think about what they're doing.
No, 100%. I'm really excited to have some of these guests on today. All these guests, not even just some. But that being said, real quick, we're going to go ahead and get into announcements. So in terms of announcements, sign-ups for this split will be going, or for next split rather, will be going live shortly after we upload this episode. We've had a lot of people express interest in signing up for next split, so if you are interested, make sure you sign up sooner rather than later. Second announcement on the docket, we will be releasing a calendar for next year so you can see how each split will break down in terms of scheduling, as well as we will be announcing our Diamond 1 and above league, also known as the PRL Premier League. We haven't quite worked out the title yet. It's a working title, but that is something we do have in development for next year. So if you're a Diamond 1 and up team, make sure that you guys are checking out that sign-up sheet to sign up and be a part of our first split of that league. Finally, our last announcement before we start breaking down Mind Division with all those who elected to be interviewed for the division today, tiebreakers. More than likely, there will be quite a few tiebreakers this week. In the event of a two-way tiebreaker, the games must be played out that day. In the event of a three, or four-way tiebreaker even, you will need to have a resolution to all the tiebreaker systems by Monday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. That way we can get everything squared away for playoffs, which begin Thursday. Now, I will not be here, unfortunately, for the last week of the season or the first week of playoffs. I will be on my honeymoon with my new wife. So as a result, Sloth King will be taking over for me in my stead. He will not only be taking over Plays podcast for that week. Him and Smacks are still working on the title for that. But he will but he will also be taking over in terms of inputting who's in where in playoffs, the seeding, and the tiebreaker system. So if you have any questions, make sure you guys are DMing Sloth King. He will be available all weekend long to make sure that everything gets sorted out in my stead. But yeah, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump on into it. We are here starting off with Team Fish Tacos team manager Bean, Frog, Ryan Goosling. You all love him. Ryan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. Just survived an arm workout, so
Heard.
no complaints.
It's always a good way to start the day, an arm workout. Well, I guess afternoon. But
Naturally.
either way, you guys have locked first seed in your division with last week's performance. How are you guys feeling going into playoffs? Are you guys feeling pretty confident?
I'd say so. I don't think it was ever really in doubt for us. I thought it was just funny how it was locked in because we beat up on NCSU both times we played them, and then they just molly-whopped Famous, so they got us in. I have to say, shout out to NCSU for helping us out.
The gatekeepers. I talked about that last week.
Looking forward to playoffs. We're really excited. We're getting some high-quality scrims in against good teams for once.
Oh, really? Who are you scrimming against?
I don't know if I'm at liberty to say, but teams from other divisions that are highly ranked.
I ranked? Okay.
Yeah.
Hard.
So you guys
Top 4.
You guys are feeling.
Well,
Now,
last week you guys played against New Meta Esports. Alex, I know you guys had some questions for the guys about that game.
New Meta Esports.
Yeah, about Team Fish Tacos game against New Meta Esports.
I'm sure
All right, so moving on.
What are you talking about?
So I guess I'll transition out of that clown fiesta that just occurred.
Yeah. I understand.
What are your guys' overall arcing thoughts on the division? This has been considered by many only the third strongest division, and a lot of people have said that you guys kind of got a cakewalk through this division as a result of that. what were your overall thoughts on this division versus the relative strength of other divisions?
I mean, overall, I think we were kind of disappointed with the quality of teams. Um, Last season, 4 of our 5 guys were obviously on Conqueror Violet, and they started 0-4, so they were excited to hopefully play against higher quality teams this season, given that they didn't get a fair shake last time, and they were kind of disappointed. It's not a bad division by any means. I would probably rank it 4th. I think the only teams worth watching are us, Dawn Revenant, and, well, I can't say Enemy anymore. I may be Famous. I don't really know Famous. I don't really think that they're all that great, but Dawn Revenant is really good. NCSU has their moments, and then obviously there's us who just kind of. I mean, you guys saw the Star Wars video. We just cyberbully everyone.
Now, we did last podcast talk about ranking the divisions by difficulty, and yours was one of the lower rankings. So you would agree with that?
I would say, other than us, yes. If you took us out of this group, and let's say you put in any mid-tier team from any other group, I think it would be like Group B at Worlds this year.
Do you think what do you think is the hardest division? Right
I would have to say any group with Akuma Blades in it, because those guys are spooky.
Awesome. That's cool. So how do you guys feel like you're going to contend when we talk about mixing in these top tiers come playoffs?
I think we have a very good chance of winning it all. I think a lot of people are sleeping on us because of the strength of schedule. You know, like our division isn't obviously as strong as other. There's not as much high-end talent. But I do think that we will at the very least, probably make it to finals.
And we kind of touched on that not seeing you guys be able to play other teams at your level make it harder to kind of see where you fit in playoffs. So I could totally see that. Now, what am I gonna say? Sorry.
I have a quick one.
Go ahead. Because I'm losing my thoughts.
You're good. So when we were power ranking the top 4 teams, all 3 of us, me, Alex, and Smacks, we left you guys out of the top 4. But we didn't have you guys much further down than that. We pretty much had you guys as like either in that top 5, top 6 area. Where would you guys rank yourselves in terms of your relative power compared to the other top teams across the divisions?
Well, we haven't played against Zephyr or Recon 5 yet, so I don't know what those teams are like. But I think the other 2 teams that were consensus were Go Next and Akuma, and I know for a fact that we're at least as good as Akuma Blades. I think that we are, at the very least, a top 3 or top 2 team.
That's going to be super exciting.
I do know that Bad Boy Boy is a big fan of saying that they have best of 5 advantage because they won last season, but I don't like their chances, so I would push Go Next out.
Now, who are you hoping to see in your side come playoffs?
We really want to play against Go Next, obviously. Furious Doctor, not a big fan of Tron. I like those guys. I'm friends with a couple of them. You know, it's all competitive fun. Mm-hmm. We'd really like to play against them, and ideally, if it all works out, we would like to see Akuma in the finals.
Awesome.
Heard. So
now, what are you guys doing to like prepare, draft wise? Since you've already said that it kind of feels like a detriment in this division, as in a challenge. What are you guys doing to prepare yourselves draft wise?
I mean, our support is just far and away one of the best players I've ever gotten to work with. Furious Doctor, he does the majority of our prep for us. The guy is nuts.
That Alistair was ridiculous this week.
He's like 10,000 IQ. He's above and beyond anything that I've worked with. And I've been on like championship teams. I've been on teams that are, decent. But this is, in my mind, the best team I've ever been a part of. And I think he is a big reason why, as far as the prep goes. And in-game, obviously. I mean, you guys know.
Jacob, we're hearing some spicy stuff here.
No,
absolutely. A real insider right here.
I mean, I think I agree. I think Furious Doctor has played absolutely insane this season. Yeah, I mean, you guys clearly walked all over this division, but I think there needs to be an elephant in the room kind of addressed here. You guys did drop that game, not last week, but the following week, or the week before that, rather, against Dawn Revenant. How did the team feel about that loss? I'm sure there was probably a little bit of frustration, or was it you guys just kind of were like, you know what, we kind of memed around this game, we didn't pick our best champions, like, we'll bounce back. What was the team's mental like after that loss?
I think we took it definitely as like a learning, like a growth lesson, you know? We into draft big time, and no disrespect to Dawn, I thought they played unbelievably, and I think that they're probably the second best team in our division by far. I think it's like us, and then like a decently sized gap, then them, and then a huge gap between second and third.
Wow.
I think Dawn is probably my biggest dark horse for the playoffs. Those guys they're really good. They prepare really well. Their support, Barlane, is really good. I've played against him forever. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to lose to anyone else but them, because they're good players.
Heard.
But we definitely took it as like a, like growth.
Oh, okay, cool.
I mean, that kind of leads me into my next question. New Meta only has one game this week against NCSU, and they kind of have to win that to stay alive in terms of like playoff hopes. And then you have Famous playing against Uni Panthers Purple, and then yourselves, and then Dawn Revenant versus OTA Cinder. If Famous wins against you and Uni Panthers Purple, they clinch that second seed. And if Dawn Revenant wins against OTA Cinder, and you guys take down Famous and they manage to beat Uni Panthers Purple, that puts them in a tiebreaker scenario for second seed. What do you think the most likely standings are in terms of Famous Gaming, Dawn Revenant, and New Meta Esports? Where do you think that's going to end up being?
I think it'll be Dawn second, Famous third, and can anyone else catch New Meta? Because if they can, then I don't think New Meta will even finish fourth if someone can catch them.
New Meta
I
can
think
be caught by
that team
NCSU.
That team is a unfortunate trash heap right now, and it makes me sad because I like all those players. Just a lot of unfortunate events that have happened.
Gotcha.
So when we watch your games, we notice that there's so much synergy and snap decisions. How are comms, or do you know how their comms are in game?
Yeah, so I sub for these guys probably like once or twice a week in scrims, because Prappa he has a tough schedule to work around. He's still only in high school, so it's tough to work around, but we find a way. And a Furious Doctor, obviously, I mean, you see the plays he makes. This guy takes over. He brains everyone. This guy he's insane. Him and Indigo are like the rocks of the team. You know that they're going to do well. Osti he's like our Duinby, basically. He just takes his licks and he keeps on ticking. And then I have a meme where it's ass ties when he plays bad and ace ties when he plays well. So when he gets Kale, it's usually ace ties. But
oh yeah, he's amazing.
Let's say if he's trying something else out, it's usually ass ties.
So you would say that the comms are usually pretty calm.
Very calm.
And you guys are just really there's no arguing. It's just straight win the game.
It's very focused, and the intent is always clear. There's never like miscommunications as far as where people should be and what they should do.
Now, you don't have to reveal anything, but do you guys have some secret drafts you're kind of holding back on for playoffs?
We're working on something. We're working on something very spicy with a certain team in particular. We've been brimming against a certain team in particular very often, and I think it's been pretty positive.
It's SPK, isn't it? I can feel it.
Well,
they are the Firebirds.
You don't have to say anything.
When playoffs roll around, you'll see, because there'll be a lot of similarities between the two teams.
You make me super excited for playoffs just hearing all this. Like, we obviously can only see what's on paper and what's streamed, and you give us so much insight on kind of what you guys think, and hearing that you guys think you're like top tier with Akuma Blades makes it so interesting. I'm pretty excited.
So right now, in terms of like first seeds, unless you guys manage to drop another game, you guys have pretty much guaranteed, unless SPK Embers drops games as well, you're pretty much guaranteed that second pick spot. SBK Embers will obviously have first pick. Is there any team, you've already mentioned Go Next Gaming is one of them, but in the event that Go Next Gaming does get taken by SBK Embers, is there any other team you guys are looking to really play against in quarterfinals?
Not to call anyone out, but we do think that Sicko Saiyans from Akuma's group is kind of the weakest of the three in that group, right? Mm-hmm. And I think they have a very bad matchup into us. So I would be interested in seeing how that went. I've never really watched anyone else's games except for ours and Akuma's, just because we're pretty good friends with Akuma Blades.
So, I have a super special question. They banned 4 of his champs. If they banned 5, does he still have another pick? Talking about Furious Doctor, of course.
I am confident in saying that Indigo and a Furious Doctor can play any of the 146 champions in the game. And I guarantee you, the second Senna is enabled, he is going to be on that like a fat kid on a hot dog.
Is that banned through playoffs?
No, it's only banned through this week. Once we get into playoffs, after the next patch drops, the preseason patch, then Senna will be enabled.
So can we say that you guys have been working on something with that?
I can definitely. I'm okay with saying it because I think everyone is. I think Senna is huge. Sure is.
Awesome. Well, that's awesome. I'm really excited to see what you guys have planned for it if it gets through draft, obviously.
Well, I mean, I only have 2 more things for you. One of which is, of course, you've talked pretty highly about yourselves and Akuma Blades. You think that you two are going to be in the finals. If by some miracle something happens and you both get knocked out, who do you think the 2 teams in finals will be, and who do you think will win it?
I think pretty highly of any Recon 5 team just because they have that pedigree. That Recon 5 as an org is pretty much always successful. Yeah. So I think Recon 5 definitely has a very big chance, and I do also think highly of SBK. SBK Embers is, I mean, they're undefeated, right? I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
They're a super good team. They play really well around their win conditions, and I think that would be an interesting interesting matchup, Recon 5 versus SBK.
Yeah, SBK is, of course, another
pretty
large
okay
organization.
With that final. I'm okay with any of these finals, honestly.
Yeah. I think all the top 2 teams, and even some of the top 3 teams, are all pretty powerful teams, and I'm okay with any combination of that.
I'd like to see what playoff does to solidify what our thoughts are, and we get a better idea for all the top tier teams.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I mean, Goose, it's been an absolute pleasure. Is there? I mean, shoutouts as always. Is there anyone you want to give a shout out to before we let you go?
So I got my list here. I got a shout out my boy Pedro. He's Team Fish Taco on Discord. He's the one who reached out to me when we were looking for an org, and he picked us up on a flyer just, as a trial. So shout-outs to Pedro. Pedro's a real one. Shout-outs, obviously, to my boy Ace Ties, to Propa P, Osti, Indigo, Furious Doctor. Those guys they work super hard. They're some of the best players I've ever had to work with, and I love each and every one of them equally. They're all my favorite children. And then shout-outs to Team Fish Taco, obviously, because, I mean, they give us a home. And then shout-outs to PRL, PlaysFerDays, Canadian champ, my boy Sloth King here, interviewing me. And obviously, big shout-outs to Smax. That guy is, he's been our fan club from, day one. Smax is all over us. I love this guy.
We're taking over next week, don't you worry.
I love this guy. And that's pretty much it. I'm happy to be here, and thanks for the interview.
Well, I just want to congratulate you guys on your placing first, and I really am excited to see you guys, and I'm glad you can give this an extra insight on what we get before playoffs.
Of course, anytime.
I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure having you. Thank you again so much for being willing to do this interview, and we look forward to seeing you guys go far in playoffs, and we look forward to having you guys back next split as well. It's been an absolute pleasure having you and the Team Fish Taco organization here in PRL.
I appreciate it. I'll pass on the message.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you. All right. We are now here with our second guest of the evening, militant brother from Famous Gaming. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Good. We're excited to have you on the show representing Famous Gaming. Um, Alex, I'll pass it over to you. I know you had some questions about their games this past week.
Yeah, I was just kind of gonna ask you how you felt about your drafts this week, coming into the games.
We felt pretty good. We have two people focused on it in our org who are focused on getting our drafts, figuring out what's going to be possible picks and bans. I know we've been getting a little bit of a lack from our poor drafts for the past few weeks. We've definitely each week though have been tightening it up. I would say we had a little hiccup on letting the Camille through. We already knew the Camille was good. We didn't realize it was that good. But our Jax player pulled it off and managed to come out of a deficit and make an impact. The second game, it went kind of what we expected. The game was neck and neck. We already knew NCSU was a strong opponent. It was just finally getting a chance to see how strong. I felt like throughout the game it could have gone either way. I don't think picks out. I don't think picks affected thoroughly the outcome.
So, how do you feel about your games next week now that you kind of took this important loss to NCSU?
Um, it was something we expected to be a possibility. We didn't, like I said, we didn't expect to be a 2-0 week. We do know now, though. Now we got to go against Uni Panthers. Statistically, we're expected to win the game, but we're going to still treat them as a strong opponent. TFT is going to be, also our other redemption game. We're going to definitely pick a little bit better now. We understand the skill range of our opponents.
Is there anything you guys are focusing on improving on before, the next week of games and then before playoffs?
We want to try right now. We want to definitely, get our spot, but also start thinking best of 5 scenarios and forming a full identity onto what kind of game we want to play. We don't want to basically repeat ourselves from playoffs, not playoffs, from the regular season, because any of us can look up the match history at this point and see, oh, this is what they've been playing. We would want to start showing some of our other players favorite champions, because consistently for the past 2 weeks, the Pike has been banned out, the Hybrid has been banned out, but we have other strong players other than their one tricks.
Gotcha.
Anything, Jacob?
No, just pretty standard questions from me. You guys play. You already touched on it. You guys play against Uni Panthers Purple and Team Fish Taco. A lot of people are expecting you to go 1-1. And then you have Dawn Revenant going against OTA Cinder. And they're expected to, of course, take that win, given OTA Cinder is kind of in the rebranding stage. What are your thoughts on that? Like, what do you guys have some plans already set and ready to go against the against Dawn Revenant in the case of the tiebreaker, or are you guys just more concerned with setting up for success and getting that 2-0 this week?
Leading into our game with Dawn Revenant, had already mentioned to my guys that Dawn Revenant's on an upsurge. They're looking stronger every week, and it shows so far that they're definitely looking like a top 3 team easily in this division. So I'm expecting them to take that game as well, and we're also going to start thinking about looking through some of our VODs and how we're going to reapproach Dawn.
Gotcha. Well, in case there is that tiebreaker scenario, obviously that you guys are going to end up playing that game that night, pretty much right after they wrap up that game against OTA Cinder, if that's kind of the way the standings shake out. So I do hope you guys are all ready to go for that one. I'm expecting a really good game between the two of you.
Now, on the case of like TFT, are you guys trying to put any focus in that, or are you kind of expecting that loss and kind of focusing on making off the playoffs through, second or third seed?
We are this is our first time in PRL and also our first time doing a split. So our org's goal is make it semifinals, and so to do that, we need to take a game off TFT. And so we're going into that game as well
I
with
agree.
the expectation of taking TFT down.
That's
And
right
it'd be great
mentality.
also be great to shake their mentality one more time as the season closes out, so they can start to think about whether or not will they be able to get to semifinals. So we're not going down bent over or anything like that. We're ready to try to take a win.
Gotcha. Well, I know a lot of people have expressed disinterest in the lack of love, I guess I should say, for the famous gaming organization. A lot of teams have kind of put you guys as the third best team in the division, and had potential to be, even lower than that. Um, do you have anything that you'd like to say to those people who have kind of said, like, we don't think famous gaming is at the level of the rest of the teams in this division? Um, yeah, I mean, any words that you'd like to say to them?
Like say, yeah, you're all entitled to your opinions. It's all it shows what we do on the Rift. I would say our team started off with a good group of guys that I thought could easily get the playoffs. We've gone through some reforms. There's some new faces in there, but we've picked up some really strong players on the way. I still had full confidence in my subs when they played in the O2 week. So I believe in my players. You guys don't need to, but it's just us. It needs to.
Well,
No,
obviously,
respect.
making it out into playoffs is, a challenge in itself. So obviously, you guys deserve the respect. But we'll have to see how this week goes.
For sure. What were your overall thoughts on your division though, as a whole? Obviously, a lot of people have said that Team Fish Taco was an extremely dominant team, and a lot of people have them in their top five, if not top six, teams in the entire league. Um, so, I mean, what were your overall thoughts on your division? Did you feel that it was hyper competitive? Did you feel like it was literally just Team Fish Taco at the top, and then everyone else, down here, trying to essentially compete for that second, third seed? I mean, what were your thoughts overall on the group?
I would say yes. TFT is a high quality team in respect to the entire league. Since we're new to this whole scene, I was expecting to be not a cakewalk. As far as our division, I would still can agree that slightly the weaker division, but as far as competitive as I would say the middle teams, so Cinder and up, I feel like we all match each other in a good kind of way where we can all grow from this season easily.
No, definitely, and I think that that's a huge point. There, a lot of teams have really looked at this as like I just expect to either show up or not, and that's going to be the end of it. So I think it's intelligent that you guys are trying to use this, even if it isn't a successful season. You guys said your goal is semifinals, so even if you guys don't reach that goal, the fact you guys are able to take a step back and use this as a learning experience, I think, is a really good thing. Um,
Now, facing strong teams like TFT, now some people are saying that compared to the other top top teams in the division, they outweigh what TFT is. Does that kind of get you guys a little scared coming to playoffs, having to say we might have to face one of these powerhouses, or do you feel like you're confident that you've got enough play out of TFT to kind of shape you guys into playing these bigger teams?
I would say prep work and play style, we probably won't be ready just because, we've been trying to pace with TFT, but our guys want the challenge, it's facing something new, it's greater than where we are now is a part of being competitive. I would definitely say, to a lot of these teams, especially like TFT, they played with each other last season. They have, they worked out their kinks. They know each other very well, and I want to see our guys reach that same point. But in the meantime, I would like to also see can they dismantle what someone else has worked on, for a good while. So, yeah, it's definitely easy to say. Yeah, we're not just be able to knock down TFT does not mean hey we're about to win this whole thing. No, we're not expecting that at all. But it's still a challenge that we need to take down.
Gotcha. I mean, what are your guys' if you guys had to give me an estimate in terms of like percentage chance, How confident are you going into this potential tiebreaker against Don Revenant? Are you guys really confident that you guys will take that second seed, or are you guys um, feeling like it could go either way, and that you guys will still be comfortable if you end up with that third seed?
Like I said, I respect Don's like gameplay. The fact they did something we still haven't done is take down TFT, and they did it pretty damn well, honestly. So if we take this game, we're just gonna boost our confidence even more in the fact that, you know, even if we went 1-1, couldn't take down TFT, at least we can feel confident enough that at least we're second best in our division, and taking third, if that's the outcome, is still a great accomplishment for, I would say, for a rookie team.
I agree.
Now, if you do make it to second seed, is there a certain team that you would look to want to face?
I would want our team to go against Recon 5. We've scrimmed against their org quite a few times in the past month. Still have yet to take a game off them. And
Recon 5's a tough opponent. I'm surprised at that answer.
Yeah, so taking out Recon 5 in playoffs will just make all those scrims go away as, hey, that was just practice. So
I like that.
So that's if you had to pick an opponent, definitely Recon 5.
Okay. So you're looking that would be the team that you would like to face in semifinals then, if you make it there, because you wouldn't be able to play them before then.
Yeah, obviously.
Right.
Yeah, they would, but it is nice to know what your answer was in a whole. So.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, we touched on it briefly, and I think you even mentioned it, that you think Mind Division's on the lower end of the spectrum in terms of overall strength. Where would you put Mind Division on the totem pole? Like who to you is like the absolute toughest division to face, and who's, you know, down at the bottom, like fairly easy division in terms of strength?
I would definitely want to put Soul at the top. Mind, I kind of want to put us third or fourth, and, you know, just feeling between. I think right now, Mind, I think, is just lacking overall, just probably just experience and consistency, especially in like roster sense. I've seen everyone's rosters change week to week. The only teams that pretty much have looked strong through at least the first half had the same guys every week. So Meta, TFT, they've had the same guys. Same thing for Dawn. I believe they haven't changed the roster much either. So I think, you know, just looking for consistency next split will make any division look stronger.
Gotcha.
So we've seen the dominant teams. A lot of these dominant teams use a lot of macro play. Is that something you guys are kind of looking to improve on coming in to the playoffs?
Oh yeah, that's going to be, you know, the difference definitely for us. I would say, you know, you look at our time average is 32 minutes, and that's because right now our guys, we like to play in the mid game, and then we'll make the play to try to cut. We'll make it look even, and then we try and make the play once we feel that we all have what we need to make
the
NA
game. Ram curse.
Unfortunately. So yeah, trying to change up our tempo in our macro play will definitely, you know, be a little less reactive, more, you know, proactive is our plan to play off.
Awesome.
No, definitely, I agree with you there, Sloth. Very awesome. Yeah, I mean, I don't particularly have too many more questions. Just, you know, outside of reaching semifinals and facing off against Recon 5 at one point or another in the playoffs, is there any other team that you guys have really found as a team you guys want to play against? Are there any teams that you guys consider potential front runners that you guys think you could take down?
I wouldn't say I would say we've been thinking about it, you know, we
focusing on your own division.
Just trying to get through our division, you know, it's been our mentality. You can see that we're still having, you know, solidified our spot yet. So it's kind of hard to like say, hey, you know, that number 2 or 1 seed in that division, it's gonna be cake. We
Well,
have not.
as a final question to you, what what two teams do you think are going to make it to finals,
Okay.
and who is going to win? I know you
Two
guys said you
teams
had an uphill battle to, go
get through
through
ourselves,
playoffs, so
right?
I just wanted to
Um,
see your thoughts.
I think it's gonna be pretty close. I think somehow it's gonna be Zareth and probably Clean the Blades. I think
I
Okay.
in the
think Zephyr
finals.
Akuma Blades is definitely a very realistic option, possibility. English is hard.
Yeah,
Um, no, yeah, I mean that about does it for me. Alex, do you have any other questions you want to ask?
No, I think I'm all good here.
Heard. Well, militant brother, do you want to give any shout outs before we let you go then?
just want to say fame ain't easy, so we're gonna bring it to you as hard as we can, and we've enjoyed every moment.
Heard.
Fame ain't easy.
Respect,
Well
man.
said. Well, I do wish you the best of luck in your
Thank you.
tiebreaker if that does happen. I
Cross
would
your
especially,
fingers.
I just want to see you guys to make the playoffs. I think you guys can
I do as
really put
well.
up a fight. So
Absolutely.
I'm
We look forward to
awaiting
seeing you
next
guys
week's
in
games.
playoffs, and we look forward to seeing you guys return next split as well. It's been a pleasure having Famous Gaming, and yeah, thank you so much for being on the podcast and also consuming the podcast as a watcher. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, I
So
appreciate being here as well. Thanks.
no problem. Have a great one. Up next on the interview docket, we of course have Lunar Links representing Dawn Revenant. Alex, once again, I'm going to hand it off to you first. You were you watched all the games this weekend. What were your thoughts, and do you have any questions for Links?
Yeah, sure. Let's go over what you thought for your draft against NCSU.
Okay. So, I'll pull that one up. Give me a second. I gotta find that.
Oh,
one.
no problem.
That was the second.
You were the
game?
Vel'Koz. You were
Oh
the
yeah,
Vel'Koz
yeah. I remember that game. Yeah. So,
game.
so we were trying to. They banned away some key champions that I was looking for, specifically the Vhagar, which I was pretty sad about, especially since we already knew that had the Gragas Yasuo. So we needed a control mage or something like that in the mid, and so we went with the Vel'Koz. And it was the Yasuo, if I remember correctly, was picked pretty late in the draft, right?
I'm not sure. I think it was pro draft, correct? Or
Oh
we
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
get
They
to do
picked
that?
it. Yeah, they did. They picked it late. So we saw the Cho'Gath, and their Deximus is a Cho'Gath player. So we were expecting the Cho'Gath mid.
Okay.
However, they flexed it on us in the second half of the draft and took the Yasuo, and they put Cho'Gath top lane. And so we'd already picked the Vel'Koz into it, hoping to get that Cho'Gath into Vel'Koz lane. And so at that point, we were like, uh-oh, this is pretty bad, because they handed Gragas Yasuo over into a Vel'Koz, and at that point, you're like, uh-oh,
Yeah.
I'm just going to get exploded. So we had to, Alex, you watched the game, right? We had to pull off some pretty fancy lane swaps in order to
Which
get
I
us
really
out of
did
that.
enjoy the way you guys did that. The Renekton was a huge pick for the mid
Yeah.
lane versus the Yasuo, and it went out really well, especially with the pressure that he was able to counteract with the
Yeah.
ganks.
Yeah, it was really huge in order to get away with that lane swap. I was sort of surprised by um how easy it was. They didn't even try and counter the lane swap by swapping back. But during our level 1, if you watched, we scouted out who was where, and then we pulled off the lane swap and then
Yeah,
went
very
from there.
very very intelligent. Now going kind of further into mid game, I noticed that you kind of were going a lot into the side lane versus the
Yeah.
Yasuo. Were you just feeling a little bit more pressure that because it seemed like you were losing a lot of your lead
Mhm.
off of you dying in the side lanes?
Yeah, so um, since Renekton was so far ahead, we were trying to force fights around the Renekton rather than me. And so since I can effectively clear waves faster than Renekton can, we were just going to send me to the side lane, just answer waves while the rest of the team forced fights. Now, I sort of ran it a couple of times down the side lanes a little bit too far. So I think if we were to play that out again, we should have swapped back faster because once Renekton started to hit sort of his peak, we should have swapped faster to then have me in the fights faster. But overall, the reason I was in the side lanes was to answer the waves faster than Renekton could.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So, and it seemed like as soon as you grouped, you guys kind of got back your team synergy, but it was starting to become a closer game. Were you guys kind of feeling some pressure, knowing that this was a very important game for you guys to win?
Yeah, so our comms in that game were pretty intense. We were like, we're on a clock here because we don't really like win late that well.
Yeah, they
Because
scaled much better.
they scale a lot better than we do, and especially if Gragas Yasuo end up scaling to late game, Vel'Koz Ezreal just gets exploded. So you were like, all right, guys, we have to force something now, which is why we were trying to group faster around the Renekton rather than have Renekton split push with Vel'Koz Ezreal poke. We were trying to accelerate the pace of the game faster.
And I noticed you kind of did that with Baron control. What was your kind of plan for Vision going into the mid game? Because I noticed you guys were able to get 2 easy Barons without much contest.
Yeah, so I was actually really surprised, especially around even Dragon Control, how little they contested us on neutral objectives. If you look at the game, they didn't get any at all. Like, they didn't get Rift Herald, Dragon, Baron, nothing. So we always made sure that we had vision, and because our solo lanes were so strong, we were easily able to control river and just make sure that Gragas was always spotted and make sure that our Elise had routes to gank and control vision.
So
Awesome.
moving on from that game, my question for you would be, my first question for you would be rather, you guys had to play against New Meta Esports. New Meta Esports was one of the teams that was competing even for that second seed spot last week against you and Famous. What were your thoughts kind of going into that game? Were you guys nervous at all? Was that were you guys feeling extra pressure, basically saying we have to win this game, or were spirits fairly high going into that game?
Well, we knew that we had to win the game in order to keep our playoff hopes alive, but I don't think we were really feeling the pressure because we were confident, especially after the NCSU game. We were confident in our play because early on in the season, when we were dropping a whole bunch of games, our roster was just all over the place. We had a bunch of, I was playing mid and then our other mid was playing top. So once we figured all those out, you can see by our record that we're a lot more confident in how we can play. So we felt the pressure, but we felt like we were prepared enough to play well, and so we just went into it sort of, heads held high.
Now you went pretty scrappy against enemy. So what were your thoughts on that game?
I don't know. After we were, I hadn't played the Tristana Rise matchup before, and I am now thoroughly disgusted with how strong Rise is.
Yeah.
That
tower dive.
Yeah, I was so
but you
close.
were popping off.
Yeah, I was.
Really good
I was
flash
having
over the wall.
Yeah, that gank was a lot of fun. I was having fun. I think we were just once again we had we were like, all right guys, we can scale. We'll win. It's okay. And then after the 2 kills on bot side with Rek'Sai, we were like, uh-oh, this is bad. But Arakara and I were able to really neutralize a lot of that lead with that counter gank in mid. And once we had that, and our Kayle was doing really well against the Fiora, we were able to just snowball off of those once again those solo lane leads.
Now, how do you feel about your jungler? Because it seems like he has a lot of pressure and presence in these games. Do you feel like he's a real carry for you guys in the early game?
Yeah, he's really intelligent with how he moves around the map. So we really do like play around where he is. He always looks in for invades and always is able to counter wherever the enemy jungler is. So when he goes bot side, when the enemy bot side gets 2 kills, he'll look in top side, drop some vision, and then he and I really like to link up in sort of the early mid game to facilitate dives around top lane and also look for vision in their jungle is really how we like to play the game.
Awesome. So next, this upcoming week, you play OTA Cinder. What are your expectations?
So I looked back at this match result for that one, and I remember it. I was actually very sad because the reason we lost the game is because I had the sheer audacity to press Zonia's in front of a Caitlyn and just ran it down. It's like, oh man. Yeah.
Big oof.
Yeah. I got 3 shots by Caitlyn, and then I was like, oh man, Zonia's will totally save me. No. So I was really sad about that game because we really played it well up until the end. So I'm
Until you did it.
expecting until we did. So I'm expecting that we should be able to, play around the early game, just like we have in the other 2 games that we won last week. And so I expect us to play well in that game, because last time we were within 1 push of winning. So I expect us to be able to get at least that far again.
Now,
Gotcha.
there is a few scenarios that you guys actually tie out with either Dawn Revenant or Famous Gaming. How do you expect the next week to go based on standings, and where do you expect to finish for playoffs?
So realistically, looking at the bracket and who plays who left, OTA plays Team Fish Taco, so I don't expect that to change very much. But then Famous plays Uni Panthers and Team Fish Taco, so I sort of expect them to go 1-1, which then I believe would leave us tied with them as long as we beat Cinder.
Okay.
So, if we can pull that off, and then we're 1-1 in the head-to-head, so I believe that we should be able to, play a competitive game against Famous again. And I think realistically, the most probable outcome is that we get 3rd, but I think we can definitely make a push for 2nd.
Well, I'm
So-
glad to hear the confidence is there.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot of different scenarios that could happen, anywhere from you guys to not even getting into playoffs to placing even 2nd in playoffs, going into playoffs. I guess my question for you is give me 1 second. I gotta sneeze. I think. Never mind, it went away for now.
Oh,
Ah.
What are your thoughts overall on the division as a whole? Like, did you feel like this division was very well balanced in terms of like competitive skill level across all over, outside of like all the forfeits that occurred? What were your how highly do you rate Team Fish Taco? Is there another division that you guys are like looking forward to playing against, rather?
So I would say the division at a whole is actually like pretty reasonably competitive within the teams that aren't Team Fish Taco. Us, Famous, New Meta, and NCSU and Uni Panthers, and then previously before OTA had their roster problems. I think we're 1-1 in all of those head-to-heads. So I think between our teams we're all pretty close in skill level, and it's just sort of who gets the better end of the deal on the day. So I would say like our division is pretty balanced outside of Team Fish Taco. I think Team Fish Taco is sort of better than the sum of its parts, because they clearly had some weaknesses that we were able to pick up the game off of them, but I think that their coordination wasn't quite there in that game. So I think they're definitely a lot stronger than what we played against them the 1 week that we beat them.
Gotcha.
Now, coming into playoffs, I know you guys have been the ones to defeat Team Fish Taco. Do you think that is going to be an advantage to the other top teams that have kind of seen little to no defeats? And what are some improvements your team needs to make coming into playoffs?
So I think it's very important that for other teams to see the 11-1 or 12-1 to show that somebody has beaten them, and there is data that you can look at to say this is what happened. Because if you look at Zephyr and SPK, you don't really have any sort of thing to go on of how do you actually beat these guys, because nobody's done it so far, and even other strong teams within their division aren't winning, right? So how do you actually come up and actually beat those guys on the day without any sort of scouting reports? You're like, what do you do? 13-0. What are you gonna do? So I think it's pretty important to at least see the one loss on the board.
Yes,
be
see the
able to-
weakness in the armor, of course.
Yeah. In terms of improvements for us, I think continuing to work on our team play, I think, is the thing that's really pushing us over the edge right now. We're all, all of our comms we're all talking in them. We're all discussing what's happening, where our lanes are, what we're trying to do, and I think that's the thing that's really come together in these last couple of weeks. So if we keep building on that, I think we have a good shot on just about any team in the entire league.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, if you guys do manage to clinch that coveted second seed, obviously you don't get that bye week that is awarded to those first seed teams from each division, but you would be on the lower end of the second seed teams due to the competitiveness of Mind Division. Is there any specific third seed team, if playoffs were to happen right now, and you did clinch that second seed, are there any third seed teams that you guys are looking forward to playing against the most? Just in case you don't know them all of them offhand, that would be Sicko Saiyans, either Jet Black, Asian Invasion, UT Esports, or
Yeah, I
Uni
see that
Panthers
four-way
Gold.
tie for
Yeah,
third
it's
there.
yeah. And then the other one would be this one's only one, I promise. Essentially a Storm. Of those third seed teams that I just listed off, obviously I know one of them was like 4 of them, but are there any of those that you're looking forward to playing the most?
Yeah. I would say Sicko Saiyans, just looking at the rest of their division, because I know that Go Next and Akuma Blades have been super competitive over the entire season. So I would sort of like to see if we can, by playing Sicko Saiyans, can get an inkling onto, what Go Next and Akuma Blades are like to, keep them so competitive at the high end, because those two teams, every division seems to have one team that's really good, and then the rest of everybody. And Life division seems to have that sort of unique thing of having 2 teams in a competitive state with each other. So I'd be interested to see what sort of impact that has on the other teams in their division.
Gotcha.
Now, speaking of other divisions, we did rank this division to be lower in difficulty than Life and Soul. What are your thoughts on that? Do you agree with that, or do you not really know how these other teams look?
Well, I wouldn't know exactly. I haven't been able to watch any other games, but I would generally agree with that just based off of these standings. Just purely based off of record. I can definitely see the argument for that because, Life Division looks kind of wild based off of how good I know that.
Oh, it is. Don't worry.
So I think Life Division is pretty stacked. I think Soul Division looks pretty similar to ours, of where you have 1 or 2 teams and then everybody else. But the addition of the second top team obviously makes it harder than ours.
Gotcha. Are there any? What are your realistic expectations for playoffs? Is there a certain spot on the totem pole you're shooting for, or is it just all the way we want to place first? Anything less is a disappointment.
Come on, all the way, Don Revnan. What are you talking about?
Dude, from bottom to top, let's get it. No, we don't really have any expectations. We're just looking to show up on the day, play well, and see where that carries us. Because starting off so low in the standings, we don't expect to say we have to get first, right? So
Well,
I think we're just trying to incrementally improve and show up on the day and see how far we get.
I think
You guys
that's
have
very
made so many
intelligent.
improvements, so I can totally see you guys being very competitive come playoffs. I hope to see you there.
Yeah,
No,
thank you.
absolutely. I guess my last question would just be, is there anyone? Well, second to last question. Obviously, shoutouts will be last. But is there any specific team that you guys are? Not even just the third seeds, but is there any upper echelon team, any first seed team across any division that you guys are really looking forward to, or you think will be easier to take down than the rest? Or I know you said you haven't really had a chance to watch them, but just based off of the limited knowledge you do have.
So based off of the knowledge I do have, I was able to watch a little bit of, I believe, Life's Division with Akuma Blades and Go Next. So I purely want to face Akuma Blades because their name is cooler than Go Next. So so I would like to at least play Akuma Blades at least once to see, what is happening with these early game teams that are like smashing everybody. So I would like to see, what they're doing to make that happen.
No, gotcha. Alex, I mean, that about answers all my questions. I think he's got a good head on his
All right,
shoulders.
I got 2 more questions. All right.
All right.
All right, I'm ready. Let's
First
get it.
question. Finals. Who will it be? Who wins? If you
Oh
could
my
had to
God.
predict right now, finals.
Well, since I don't know exactly how the finals bracket works, I would
can break that
probably
down
say
for you
It's
real
going to
quick
be
if you need.
it's 2 different teams from the.
No. In finals, it can be 2 teams from the same division. So what it is
Well, yeah.
so basically what it is the seed 2 pools. The seed 2 pool will get to pick who they play from the seed 3 pool, based on where they fit into the seeding. You can't pick the same team from your own division. And then it goes to quarterfinals where the first seeds then re-enter the fray, and they get to pick who they want to play against from the remaining teams,
let me simplify it for you.
and so on and so forth.
Any 2 teams that are going to go to playoffs, who do you think it is? Who wins?
from our division or the whole thing.
The
whole thing.
The whole thing. Oh my gosh. All right, I would probably say, like, probably Akuma and Zephyr are probably gonna end up somewhere close to the top. I don't think, realistically, based off of what I've seen.
Who do you think wins?
Ooh, I don't know, man.
It doesn't have to be your end.
I'll just go with Akuma Blades because their names. That's all I got.
All right, there it is.
Sounds good.
And
I
for my last
really
question,
don't think there's any
Now
chance.
you don't have to give up any information if this is something that you guys have top secret. Will we see the Nocturne again?
I mean, if people leave it up, who knows?
I
Who knows, man?
didn't know if that was because it did so well.
I mean, it's been
I know.
it's
have
perma-banned
people
last
been-
week.
Oh, okay. So people have been listening to
Yeah.
Play's podcast and perma-banning the.
Oh yeah, it was banned both times.
Sorry about that, by the way.
Oh, dude, that's all right. We got more picks. It's all good.
That's
Oh,
what I
still
like
he's
to
got-
hear.
so he's telling me we got more in the tank that no one
Oh, yeah.
even knows about.
Yeah, we got more in the tank. Easy.
Awesome.
All right, I mean, yeah, that about does it for me. I guess the last little bit for me is there? Do you want to give any shout outs to anyone or?
I want to give a shout out to everybody on my team. So Hubris, Arakra, Double B, not Double D, although he shows up sometimes, and then Paralysis. Everybody on my team's working really well together. So I would really want to thank them for the hard work that they're putting in and having fun. So that's about it.
Heard. I like to hear it. All right. Well, thank you so much. Up next we have Nutty. So yeah, make sure you guys keep watching. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back now with Nutty from New Meta Esports. Nutty, how are you doing today, my friend?
Pretty good. Appreciate you guys having me here, getting to talk about the division and my team.
Of course, man. So let's start with last week's games. Alex, I know you really were focused on watching these games because you were super excited to see how Mind Division would play out. Do you have any questions you want to start off asking, Nutty?
Yeah. So, in your game versus TFT, what was your kind of thoughts going into draft?
Drafting against TFT is a tall task, mostly just because Doc is.
Yes, you banned like 4 supports, and he still
Yeah.
picked a great support.
Well, he is indeed a furious doctor.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. He's great.
basically, my mentality was, we have to take away Thresh Pike. Otherwise we lose. I didn't know if Acetize was gonna Acetize, yeah. If he was gonna take the Kayle, I was kind of banking on the fact that he didn't because our top laner really only plays Kayle and Fiora. So they banned Fiora and took the Kayle, which was unideal for us.
Yeah.
And that ended up losing us the game. But it was mostly just take picks away from Doc and hope to get on comfort for everyone else.
Yeah, it didn't really seem like the Malphite had the most pressure. Didn't
Yeah.
have much pressure, but I was more interested on what I've seen the Zach pick a lot on Klepto, and what are the thoughts behind it when you guys go to like prioritize this pick?
So Klepto's playstyle is very mid to late team fighting centric. Like he doesn't look to. He's not as active in the early game as most players would be, and so we tried to get him a champion that he could have a big effect in those mid to late team fights on.
Okay.
It just didn't end up panning out that way, but that was our goal. Our goal was to play around neutrals in the mid to late game and try and team fight them, but Kale just did Kale things, and
Yeah,
that happened.
it seemed like they used the Jarvan to get a lot of top pressure, and then could relate that into a lot of objectives. So I
Yeah,
can see where that was a big problem.
yeah. The main problem was, in my opinion, that like you just can't do anything about Kale as Malphite, and that was like our only other pick for the top lane.
So was
We
it
were-
Malphite picked first, and then they picked Kale? Or...
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Well, no, I think Kale was first pick. Kale was first pick. So
Okay.
we wanted Kale, and then they took Kale, and our top laner was like, "Well, can I have Malphite?" And we were like,
Yeah.
sure."
I
That's
mean,
kind of
I
a
would have
rough
picked a
matchup
little
for
more
the
of an
Malphite.
aggressive. I would
Yeah.
have picked like a more aggressive carry style in the top lane to kind of
Yeah.
counteract the Kale. And then
Yeah.
when you're talking about Kale, and you don't have that early jungler to pressure the Kale, she kind of gets a free lane. So
Yeah.
I
Like
can understand with the frustration.
It was just a lot of champ pool issues. But, TFT's really good. Like,
Yeah, they are good.
in my opinion, TFT is the best team in the league, and it's like hard to do anything against them, even in draft.
That's some pretty high praise. I know
Yeah,
both
that
me
is,
and
yeah. that
I know
was.
I had them as my number 6 on my tier list. Number 5, like they were competing with SPK Embers for that. And then we
Yeah.
had Alex. I don't remember exactly where you had them on your list, but I
I think
you-
they're about the same, like
Yeah.
5, 6.
And then so I that's fairly high praise in my opinion. What makes you what leads you to believe that TFT rather is the best team in the league over teams like Akuma Blade, Recon 5, stuff like that?
I have a lot of inside information about the way scrims go, and I've also scrimmed against teams like Zephyr, and then I've played against TFT,
Mhm.
and TFT is infinitely more oppressive, and it's like, not to toot their horns too hard, but I think they have two of the best, like 2 top 5 players in the league. Like, it's very hard to
Oh,
beat
we'll
them
find
in
we'll
any
find
area.
out all about that next week. So
Yeah, next week
Yeah.
we're releasing our top 20 list, so it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see if we have those 2 TFT players ranked as highly as
now
you do.
when you say like Zephyr was an easier scrim partner, do you think it's because they also kind of play it a little slower in the early game as well, and maybe
Okay.
TFT is just more pressuring your early game issues?
The thing about Zephyr is it might seem that they play the early game slow, but they're just more of a methodical team.
Mm-hmm.
They still have a really good sense of like how to play the game, which
Yes.
is what defines most of the bottom teams from the top teams, in my opinion. The more like, I guess the more, what I would use to describe it as like, TFT is just very oppressive in lanes. Like mechanically, they're very good. They're not going to lose lanes to you, and they're going to make sure that you feel uncomfortable at all times, which is what like separates them for me. Because I couldn't do anything throughout our entire game. Like, we had no idea where Doc was. We couldn't get lane pressure in any lane. Like, it was really bad.
Yeah,
So-
I could see that being kind of scary. The cow on the hunt.
So
Yeah.
with their roaming support, how do you feel like they are in terms of controlling vision? Do you feel like that's why it's so scary playing against them? Is just because they
Yes.
control vision so well?
Yes, my map was completely black the entire game, and
Yeah.
my playstyle is really roam centric. So me not being able to roam hurt us really
And
bad.
unfortunately, having a jungler that really can't contest much is, another. Again, I think it
Yeah.
shoots down to the jungler just needs to be on more early game champs, and I understand that's not really his strength, but That's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
what kind of seems to be the coexisting problem in the team.
Definitely is. Definitely is that.
So, I mean, I think that's a good point to kind of transition to. You know, we we want to know, like, what's your thoughts overall in the on your division. Obviously, you said TFT you think is one of the best teams in the league. How do you feel about teams like Famous and or Famous rather, and Dawn Revenant?
Right now.
Because those are the two teams that you're competing with in terms of getting that playoff spot or even getting second seed. So how do you feel about those two teams in comparison to where you guys stand?
Okay, so for us as a team, I mean, looking back at it, I'm not very proud of what we did. We technically only won 3 games. We beat Unipanthers Purple twice and OTA Cinder once, and then all of our other wins were forfeits. Dawn was able to bring their roster back and kind of become a better team. I have a lot of respect for their jungler. I think he's really good. And I don't like Famous. Like, I don't like them, but they're a decent team. I think they're not at a high level, but they can make some upsets happen, in my opinion.
Throwing down the gauntlet. Why do you rate Dawn Revenant so much higher than Famous? Because Famous currently resides higher in the standings, just based on how their schedules have played out.
I think Dawn has like 4 forfeits or something, and Famous hasn't forfeited once.
Dawn has 0 forfeits.
Both they have 0 forfeits?
Yeah, both teams have 0 forfeits.
They have never forfeit.
Because I'm okay.
NCSU and University of South Alabama were the two teams that forfeited a lot in this division.
I thought they had like roster issues that made it so that they had to give up wins.
That was NCSU.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
I know they've had roster issues slightly, but nothing that made them not play a game.
Okay. Well, then I'm mistaken about that. But played Famous last week or the week before last week, and then we played Dawn this week.
Mm-hmm.
This meta is super jungle centric, and Famous doesn't have a very good jungler, and their mid laner I don't think is very good either. But Oracra, I think is his name, from Dawn, he can just take over games. Like, he took over a game against TFT, and to be able to do that, you have to be very good at the game. So I have a lot of respect for Dawn, and I don't have very much respect for Famous. That's just basically it. Like, as players.
Wow. Okay. Understood.
Okay.
So, I mean, now I kind of released a statement about, like, checking out the roster spreadsheet in order to see, like, how certain matchups can play out in Mind and Body division. Unfortunately, there were just way too many scenarios for Soul and Life. But in terms of Mind and Body, you know, there is a very real possibility that you guys still sneak into playoffs. Obviously, you aren't proud of the way that your team is played. But, you know, how are you guys confident that you guys can clinch that playoff spot? Or do you think that you guys have been so underperforming that you guys don't deserve that spot and you guys won't be able to clinch it?
I think it's like, if a team is ever in a position where you have to rely on other teams to underperform or overperform, then you don't deserve the spot. If we get it, we get it. But like, I'm not under the impression, but my opinion on it is that Dawn and Famous deserve it more than us.
Now, if you do end up making it to playoffs, what are some changes that you think your team needs to make that will help you win the whole thing?
It would be a very long shot to win the whole thing. But
so not confident. All right, that answers that question.
Not too confident on that one, but I mean, our biggest issue is champion pools.
Okay.
And I think a lot of players on the team have felt pressured to perform in different weeks and ended up getting in their own heads. because for a lot of us, this was our first time competing. Like, this is my first time ever being in a competitive environment in League of Legends.
Oh, nice. We're happy to be the
that's awesome,
solicitor of that.
Yeah, you guys, yeah. So it's like a learning experience for basically everyone on our team, and that's one thing that just comes with time, I think, and practice. So at the end of the day, it would just be getting more time playing in front of an audience and just fixing champion pool issues, play style issues across the early game.
Heard.
Awesome. Yeah,
Well-
yeah, we've talked about draft. You know, everyone's sick of us talking about draft, but
Yeah.
we talked about it. It's so important in the meta, especially when we're talking about, you know, playing up to this level
Yeah.
of competitive league. So, you know, I obviously could see where you're like, oh yeah, we definitely need to work on draft. So.
Oh, draft is So
it's
I
a
don't-
new challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know who Thin Uncle Phil is.
Yes.
He's around.
He's a
quite
sassy guy.
often. Yeah, him and I are real close, so I work with him pretty consistently, and I've been doing like practice drafts with him. I'll draft against Zephyr's coach Starling just to like get in the field, like basically figure out what's good and how we can play around our own champ pools and match up against other teams draft wise, just to improve on that small account, because drafting in game and then having the draft go wrong in the game sometimes makes you feel like the draft is bad, but that's not always necessarily the truth.
It's how you play it as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it helps not even playing the game, just looking at the draft and being like, okay, who won this?
Mm-hmm. Very important.
No, I mean, we've talked about it multiple times. We here on the podcast feel that the draft takes up about 35% of your ability to win, and if you're missing, 35% of your ability to win just based on going into a game with a bad draft, yeah, you're already hindering yourself. So I think that's very commendable that you're taking those strides to try and improve your team's draft, even with the limited champ pool. And I think it shows, and I think that's part of the reason you guys have, some of the wins you guys do have. Yes, some of those have been courtesy of forfeits, but that doesn't discredit the wins that you guys have gotten.
Yeah, we did put in a lot of work. We did.
Now, we talked on the podcast earlier, I think week 3, about how big the forfeits were for the teams. Did you feel like it was kind of a hindrance to you guys having to have forfeits against you and then not getting the practice?
Yes. I was constantly upset about that. Every time there was a forfeit, I would ask teams if we could still play our game, to try and at least get the practice in, or like compete against these teams. I really didn't like the forfeits.
Yeah, I could understand that.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, I felt it hurt our teams more than anything.
No, and I definitely know that you're not the only one with that sentiment. I've been reached out to even earlier today about how people feel that we should address the forfeiting issue. But it's definitely a very hard
Kind of
subject to tackle.
It's something that you guys can't do anything about, really.
Exactly.
Obviously, you guys do your best to make sure that it's an enjoyable experience for everyone, but there's still going to be that, are they going to play this week?
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, that's not something that can be blamed on the league or anybody involved. It's really comes down to the teams, either with time commitment issues or just inability to get to the games.
I gotta say kudos though for at least stepping out there and saying, please play, like, because I really could tell that it felt like a lot of these teams just underperformed due to lack of practice.
Yeah,
not everyone has a really strong scrim partner, and I feel like that's a big problem.
Yeah, I couldn't care less about winning. Like, obviously, when you start getting the wins, it feels good. But if you just aren't getting the games in, like, you're just taking the forfeits and you're not actually deserving of those wins. It doesn't sit well with me.
No, absolutely. All right, well, I only have 2 more questions for you. Maybe Alex has some more. One of my questions is, so this week, Dawn Revenant only has 1 game against OTA Cinder. Famous has 2 games against Uni Panthers Purple and Team Fish Taco Tempest, and you guys only have your 1 game against NCSU. You've already expressed a little bit of concern about that matchup versus NCSU for your team. How are you expecting the standings to shake up at the end of the day? Are you expecting there to be a tiebreaker for second? Are you guys expecting to be able to force a three-way tiebreaker for second and third? Or what are your guys' thoughts on how this last week is going to shake up?
You said Famous plays UPP and TFT?
Yep.
They'll win against UPP. UPP,
So
I
you're
think.
saying 1-1 or?
Yeah, they're definitely gonna lose against TFT. Definitely gonna lose. I'm
No love
pretty
for the
sure.
others.
Yeah, I mean TFT's my boys. I'm literally their fan club now after what happened on stream. So,
All it took was the Alistair pick.
I'm not allowed to say anything bad about them ever again. But UPP lost their mid laner, Pop Tarts.
Yeah,
And
he
was their
promoted to Masters, correct?
Yeah, he was their best player.
Oh man. That's
So
rough.
there's literally no chance that they win that game or that they lose that game. I mean, Famous, they're good enough to beat UPP. Dawn plays, who was it again?
OTA Cinder, yeah.
They should win that. I know Vandalize is working hard with his team and they're looking forward to next split, which I respect him for, but I don't think they're good enough to beat Dawn right now after what I saw from them.
So you're thinking tiebreakers.
That would make both teams get one win. So would that shake up the standings at all?
No, that would put them both at 9 and 5.
So just put
Okay.
them in a tiebreaker and you guys would be eliminated.
Yep. If both teams get a win this week, you guys are eliminated.
Yeah, I'm relatively certain that's what will happen. Pop Tarts is really good, and not having him is gonna hurt UPP really bad.
Gotcha.
Understandable.
Well, I guess my final question then is you guys are obviously you pretty hard set on you think that it's going to be Famous versus Dawn Revenant for that second seed with you guys
Yeah.
on the outside. So I guess that leaves me with two questions, not just one. One, who do you think wins that tiebreaker for a second? You've obviously sung very high praises for Dawn Revenant and very low hatred for, or I guess high hatred. Yeah, high hatred
Yeah.
for Famous Gaming.
Yeah.
So I think that's a pretty clear indicator of who you think's going to end up winning that tiebreaker and taking the second seed.
I mean, the mic drop man himself from Famous will never get my love. I can't give it to him. I would 100% give this to Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
The only person that I like from Famous is Screeching. I won't say the second half, but he's their jungler. Like, I think he's good, but their mid laner's bad. And Dawn will have a fun time with them. I'm positive.
This dude straight hates Famous. Like,
So much.
all right, well, I guess that leaves me with one last question then. If you guys do manage to sneak in to playoffs for some reason, like both teams end up, dropping a game or whatever the case may be, if you guys do end up sneaking into playoffs, well, I'm just going based off his logic.
Right.
Okay.
Is there any teams that you guys want to play against if you guys do make it into playoffs?
I mean, I always want to play against TFT. Other than that, yeah, probably not.
You'd have to
But-
make it to finals to play against them. You can't play anybody from your division.
I know. Goose and I have been memeing about a TFT versus enemy finals for a while. We thought it would be funny, but I don't think that's realistic. The only other team is like Go Next.
Come next.
I
Good team to
hate
wanna
Go
play
Next too.
Oh, you hate Go Next too. All right, never mind then. I thought it was out of like mutual respect, not
Out
like
of
mutual
respect.
hatred. Like,
I mean,
all right.
Well, okay, so at the beginning of the season, I had a lot of beef with Young Mid and Tron,
Gotcha.
but now Tron seems like a really like level-headed guy. But Huey had a spaz attack in the banter channel a couple weeks ago, so I don't know.
If you think Tron is level-headed, you obviously haven't looked in Play's discussions.
Yeah, well, I mean, he probably has a hard time at work. He's an engineer, so you guys have to remember that. He's got a lot going on, man. Like, he's
No,
got
no,
a
no.
life.
We clearly
Everyone has a
No,
lot.
we clearly
I just wanna
don't
be
hate
that guy.
Tron. Like, we're just we're
Yeah.
just
No,
mad
I
at
want to
him.
be clear. I'm completely memeing.
Oh yeah, no, I've
being
seen
an
the meme.
engineer is a meme. Yeah.
I've seen the meme that's been going around about how people have lives and everything like that.
Yeah,
They just step on them,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I got you. All right, well, I mean, that does it for me in terms of questions. Alex, do you have any last questions you'd like to ask our guest?
I'd like to know what your thoughts. Obviously, you think TFT is really good. Who do you think makes the finals, and who do you think wins it?
TFT wins it. Maybe.
Who makes it to finals?
Zephyr TFT.
Wow, okay. Over Recon
Okay.
5 and Akuma Blades?
Did you guys watch Recon 5 this week?
Yeah.
We did, yes.
I mean,
They were up
I
like
don't know.
they were up like 10 gold, 10,000 gold,
Against Asian Invasion.
and still, I mean, they just closed it out really slow, but they really were dominant in gold.
I don't know, man. Recon 5
But
is
I
like,
could understand. They did look a little shakier than usual.
yeah.
I
And-
totally agree.
The thing about Zephyr for me is that I'm friends with Starling, and they got some changes happening, and I think it's gonna help them for the better.
Heard.
I've scrimmed against them. I think Akata is a really, really solid team fighter in the mid lane. I just don't see any other teams being stronger than them. Akuma's pretty good, but I feel like it's all on Fluke and Brash's back.
Shit. I just messed up my cameras. All right, there we go. Apologies.
Obviously, we're gonna have to wait and see. We all have so many questions
Yeah.
come playoffs, so I do respect what your choices were, and I hope to see everything go the way you think it will.
Me too. I do too.
And I'm really appreciative that you came on the show, and it's really awesome to get your perspective on things, because I think it puts so much enlightenment for what's going on with this team. We really praised them, and then we were really disappointed at the results.
Yeah.
But it seemed like, talking to you, that you guys had some problems, and you are still trying to work it out, and you have such a great mental against it. And I
Yeah.
really hope I see you in in the PRL again next season.
Yeah.
If you guys
No,
don't make
will-
it to playoffs, obviously. If you guys make it
Yes,
to playoffs.
of course.
But-
I don't want to take your shot away. I really do respect your mental as a player, and I think you have a good head on your shoulders, and you'll make it far.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I mean, it's all about improving, right? That's what we're all here for.
course.
Whether or not we win or lose, like, if you get better, then next year maybe you win. Maybe you promote to Masters. Like, there's so many different doors that things like this open with the amount of people in the league that are willing to work with you and stuff. So,
will the Nutty fan base expect to see you next season?
oh yeah, no, 100%. I'll be here, whether or not wherever it is, whatever team it is. I mean, unless I hit Masters, I will be here.
Heard. I like to hear it.
Awesome.
All right, Nutty. Well, that's going to do it for us in terms of the interview. Do you have any shout-outs you want to give before we let you go?
Yeah, shout out Thin Uncle Phil. That's my boy.
R.I.P.
shout
real
out-
Uncle Phil.
Yeah, R.I.P. Uncle Phil. Shout out Young Mid. Shout out Twilight Mole. Who else? Goose.
Shouting out all the meme lords who have been banned.
Shout out Goose. Furious Doctor has my toes.
I got
All my
your number.
teammates. Yeah, definitely. All my teammates, Darth, Klepto, Balls, forklift operator, rest in peace, forklift operator, wheelchair operator as well.
Aw.
Barbarian Beast is gone. We went through a lot of supports, but yeah, just basically everyone who is around, who I spoke with, Acetize, Acetize, all the boys. I appreciate it all. Shout out Tron too.
Okay. Longest shout out I've ever had to do.
Yeah, I was thinking like 3 or 4 people.
No,
Man's
man.
like just
They
reading
bombed
down the
that.
list of like everyone in PRL. Like,
The thing is, like, this has been a really fun experience for me. I put a lot of time into it and like met a lot of people. I've made some good relationships off of it, and I really appreciate everything that's going on here. So,
no,
gotta show my appreciation.
I feel you, and we appreciate you, and we look forward to having you either in
And we do
playoffs or
hope-
back next split.
We do
Yeah.
hope you guys have kind of listened to us and had, some learning experiences from here on the show. That's what we're here for. We just
Oh,
wanna
I listen to the
experience so much
podcast
better.
every time. Every
Every
time,
time.
baby.
You're one of those people spamming me to put it up, and I'm like, I can't. do it.
True.
All right, well, that's going to do it for our interview with Nutty. Yeah, it was a pleasure having you on, man. Take care.
All right, thanks, man. Appreciate you guys.
Well, that about wraps it up for all of our interviews today for the Mind Division. Alex, we got a lot of good insight, a lot of trash talk, too. I was surprised by that a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, what were your overall thoughts regarding how our interviews went today?
I thought we got a lot of information about what these teams are thinking of, what we can expect coming into playoffs, and what we can expect coming into this week's games. And I think that it's going to give us a little more of that beefy rivalries that we didn't really think were there.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. I'm really excited for some of these games, and I really am hoping to see a tiebreaker game between Don Revenant and Famous Gaming, just for the sake of seeing, where they stack up against each other in terms of skill level. I think that there's going to be a lot of interesting things going on this week, especially in Mind Division after everything we heard today. So, yeah, I mean, that about does it for me. Alex, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, just next week that me and Smacks will be taking over the show. Do not miss it. So if you want to watch that, just hit the subscribe button, and then you can see all the new uploads that are coming up, and it'll be more available to you.
And just like we said at the beginning of the episode, I will not be here next week, as well as I will not be here for the conclusion of week 7, nor will I be here for the start of round 1 of playoffs. So if you guys have any questions, make sure you guys are deferring over to Alex. He will be able to take care of you guys in my stead. Yeah, but that's gonna do it for us here today on PRL Plays Podcast. Yeah, good luck on the Rift, everyone.